Hey gang, welcome back. This episode was an uphill battle the entire way. I learned the hard lesson that there's these special models called Plague Marine Heroes, and they are way more intricate than the standard run-of-the-mill Combat Patrol or Plague Marine, the little box of seven. It's so much more detail. The one on the right is standard, the three on the left are heroes. The bases have more intricate stuff going on. I just assembled everything and went and started painting like I always do, and every step of the way, man, it was rough. I learned a lot. I still have some cleanup to do on these guys, but man, one of these things is not like the others. So let's get underway. This is 0 to 40k. Just another day at the office. I got my Plague Marine box, looking through what's the next guy, start snipping things out. Everything's going pretty normal. If you're new to this, basically you use the clips to snip out the pieces. Then it's a really good idea to take an X-Acto knife and take off any of the little burrs that are formed by snipping the pieces off the sprue. That little stick, that colored stick, is a sander. So it's like sandpaper, but it's on this flexible piece of, cardboardy sort of stuff, so you can sort of get in between the spots. This is what I'm used to. There's a little bit of dry fitting ahead of time. Sometimes the glue doesn't come out, and you use a lighter to get the glue to flow again. But all in all, you just, go one step at a time. The directions are sometimes a little opaque. Sometimes the order is a little weird, but you kind of just go through it. So easy peasy. Last step, you slap the head in there, you lay him down next to the picture. It looks just like the picture. No problem. And yeah, here's where it gets dicey. So you saw that special box. You see that it's the plastic, the resin is green. You can see right here I am already losing my mind on this thing. So these are supposed to just snap together, but I am gluing them. But the pegs on the inside don't always fit the holes on the inside. I'm like pressing to the point. Now, obviously, this guy's covered in spikes, so I'm like pressing this thing together, absolutely wrecking my fingers. The head doesn't just sit in there with a little hole in post to make it sit straight. It's actually got like a longer neck that's supposed to fit in the thing. Every single one of these three models was like that. I tried to clip a little bit of it off. Finally, I was like, X-Acto knife, poof, take that neck part out, put this thing on. It's just absolutely every last one of these three guys, these special little dudes, was a total pain, and it was frustrating. I got through it, but I was so frustrated while I was building them that I really wasn't paying attention to how much detail and the fact that I might not have wanted to construct them whole before painting some parts. My opening game plan is the same as the first three Plague Marines that I did. The light colored armor is going to be started with Wraithbone. Just as a heads up, I primed this in Chaos Black and then a little spritz over the top of Death Guard Green. That's kind of my thing now. It's a good mix. You get a little bit of a gradient in there, but it's not too light. So the sections, mainly the legs minus the knee pads, and the torso bits minus the chest plate, get Wraithbone to start. They'll eventually get some Corax White highlights, but I wash them in Seraphim Sepia, so you get this sort of tan-ish color, sepia color, that is a throwback to sort of the Legion back in the 30k days. And so everything kind of starts normal. I hate how the model looks at this point because it's all kind of, I don't know. The first base coats just look so flat, but I'm used to that, so I think I'm in pretty good shape at this point. My next step is handling the green sections of armor. Same as the last time I did it. I'm using Plaguebearer Flesh as a base, and then eventually this stuff called AK Slimy Green, or AK Slimy Dark Grime, which, man, if you wanted to name a paint something perfect for Death Guard, I think that's probably the perfect name. This works out well. I don't go through the first phase of it looking neon because my primer coat is darker. So once again, still feel like we're pretty much on track. we're still on course. The next step, all of the metallic edging is getting warp lock bronze. I love this paint, the color of it. You get a metallic finish out of it, but you're not using a gold or silver. I'll eventually use lead belcher on some of the metallic parts of the weapons, and both guns and blades and such, and I'll grind those down with a wash. But as far as overall in terms of the backpack and the armor edging, I absolutely really love this color because you get a shine to it, but it's still like deep and dark and kind of grimy. At this point, I've done up some of the sashes in red. I think it was Blood for the Blood God. I've done the lead belcher that I described before on a bunch of the blades. You can see this has like a massive axe. That was fun to paint. Now is where things start to, I don't want to say go off the rails yet, but I'm getting into, there's a lot of flesh colors to be had here. So there's like, I think I'm using Gilliman flesh here. But you've got severed heads all over the place. Some of these models don't have helmets on them. You've got these little lords standing around on some of the bases. As a reminder, this is one of the standard Plague Marines, so he's still relatively simple. But you'll see step by step here, it starts getting a little wily. I think right after this spot, I'm just trying to fill things in, and I finally get a little frustrated and move forward to just doing a wash on the lighter spots because I need to take a break. Here's the spot where things actually start getting dicey. I've got these weird, I think they're fungal things sticking out of this guy's shoulders and his power pack on the back, and so I kind of wing it, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go for some contrast. I'm going to go for some really wild blue colors here, which in the end I did like, but this is the moment where I feel like, I normally have a plan, and now I'm just going for it. And there's a lot of this is like for better or worse. You can see that this blue, it's pretty cool. I dig it. I think it's cool for this guy, but he's also got these three sort of like nodules on his chest, and I go for a yellow color there. I end up going over it like 3 or 4 times to try to darken it up. This is sort of the spot where I'm recognizing just how much detail there is in these hero models, and pretty soon I start getting into painting the Nurglings that are on the ground and realizing, man, I should have left them not glued in to the base so that I could get access to more spots on the model. It's compounding challenges at this point, and to sort of cap it all off, I'm doing this work in sort of intermittent spurts over the course of a few days, really. Like kind of when I have a lunch break, I'll sit down for 20 minutes and paint a bit, and then in the evening, make dinner for the family. Okay, like things will be ready in 10 minutes. They're just sort of finishing up on the stove. I'll sit down and like paint another model, and that lack of focus, time, and concentration leads to just a lot of erratic choices that then the next day I'm stuck with, and going back and like, oh, well, I did this here, I should do that there, and I should touch this up. It's an infinite loop. I think the overall amount of detail gets sort of a little bit blinding. Eventually I recognize the fact that that guy's not wearing a helmet. You got to sort of flesh up his head. He's got some metallics like on his face, but with the primer, like in my first pass, I just thought it was supposed to be helmet, and it's not. And now as I dipped through and was working on this fungal stuff, I find spots that I missed that looked texturally like they're not the actual sprouts of fungus, but there's little bits on there that I'm just like, oh, I missed this, I missed that. You can see that sort of green wormy thing on the bottom that I just winged. So at this point, I'm just trying to see things through. But I'm basically going in rotation from model to model to model, and then I go back to the first one and I pick it up and I'm like, okay, fix this little spot, tweak this little spot, fill in this place that you just didn't happen to do because the angles you were working in. It's a little frantic. I've left plenty of footage on the editing room floor here, but I essentially spent 2 days of very tiny little moments of going in and finding something I hadn't done and patching something else up. Eventually, I sort of get to a place of contentment, and I decide to move forward. Let's make our peace with it. Let's do a couple steps that we like. So here I'm adding a bunch of like radiological goop to certain spots, which I think is cool because it pops out. I got the visor, I got the eyeballs on the sort of sidearm thing. This spewer. This stuff is just fun. This I feel like is back under control, and then I get into adding rust to grime down a bunch of the lead belcher shiny spots. And at this point, I feel like I'm in the home stretch. The amount of sort of random changes I was making midway through. Now that I've gotten to the metallics again at the end where I rust them up, I'm back in my sweet spot. Of course, I'm not, because this Nurgling that is at the end of this ball and chain thing the entire time, I completely didn't see it. This entire process over days. So when I think I'm done, I'm really not. There's actually a couple other things I had to go back and do. But, you know, the car sort of slid into the parking place, double parked, a little bit on fire. I'm still very proud of these guys, but I think I learned a few things. You know, these hero versions of models, I need to paint in chunks, maybe not do 4 at the same time. I'm certainly proud of the results, but this one was a little bit of a slog. So, you know, I gotta remember that I'm still new to this, and even if I do something for the second time, like these Plague Marines, there's still a lot to learn, still a lot of room to get humbled, but we did it. So you can see the original 3 boys blurred out in the back. I think I'm going to take another pass at this, put them all next to each other, do some detail work for consistency, but you know, a lot of good lessons learned here. I did have fun. I did get a little frantic, but all in all, like, you know, I've got 7 Plague Marines now. I've got 30 Poxwalkers. I'm a couple characters away from a combat patrol, which is kind of cool, which means I may actually play the game sometime soon. And yeah, I do know I'm probably going to have to make a couple other Plague Marines to sub in so that my weapons are right even for the combat patrol, because I picked from these hero guys. But we are getting close. I may actually roll some dice sometime in the near future. If you enjoyed this, hit like, hit subscribe. You might also want to check out the fact that I've been doing some book analysis of some Death Guard lore stuff, so check that out on my channel, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.